Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Advisor. My name is Lisa Urbanski, co-host of the show. And today's guest is one that you're going to want to hear from. So he has quite the journey. He is in a transition phase of his life, and he went through a transformation his whole life. And he's the type of person that you want to hear his story because it's inspiring. And now what he's striving to do is even more inspiring. So with us today is Mike Wood. Before I introduce him, I want to thank Spreaker and iHeartRadio for your sponsorship because without you, conversations like this could not be happening. So, as I said, I have here with me Mike Wood. So, he's the COO of a $90 million construction company, a father of six, and a man who didn't learn how to read until he was 25. So, he is now transitioning into he already is, but he wants to really, really embody this mindset coach. So, in the construction company that he helped scale in just 12 years, he did that all while raising six kids and quietly battling anxiety and depression until the age of 45. Man, I'm excited to hear about that. His personal transformation is really as extraordinary as his professional success. So he didn't learn to read till he was 25. He grew up with a learning disability. He wrestled with self doubt and knows what it feels like to live in survival mode, just like so many of us do. But today he's on a mission to help others learn to love being themselves the way he truly fully did. And so he's got this powerful three-phase program, and he guides people out of the fear bucket and into the love bucket, which by the end of the show, you're going to learn what both of those terms mean. But quickly, phase one is all about gaining control over your thoughts, and phase two shifts your perspective. And phase three, well, guys, that is exactly where the magic happens. So stay tuned for this amazing conversation. So it's really nice to meet you, Mike. You're coming in from Nashville and you're sitting in front of this beautiful fish tank. How's it going?
It's going great. Thank you, Lisa, for having me on your show.
Good, good. And I also see a picture frame that says happiness in the background. I love it.
Yeah, just try to constantly make that choice. Like to put reminders everywhere.
Absolutely. It's our environment, right? It's what we're surrounded by. And that's why I'm pointing that out because I don't know, just looking at that makes me feel good and centered and I think that's so important.
It really is. You know, you talked about my program there for a minute, and the first third of the program is really learning how to make a conscious choice to be happy every day. The content of our lives is it's a choice on whether or not we're happy. It's difficult to make that choice because it feels like we're overwhelmed with thoughts that we can't control, but we can control them. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Before we jump into more of your coaching program and who you are, why don't you tell the audience who you are?
I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a COO of a thriving construction company in Nashville, and I'm kind of transitioning into a life coach. It's what I want to do when I grow up. It's I get a lot out of being able to help others find peace and joy and kind of share some of the tools that I've learned over the last 6 years. I went through a bit of a spiritual awakening, and in the middle of that, I was meditating for about 2 to 3 hours a day and consuming anywhere from 10 to 20 books a month on Audible. Um, and then going to energy therapists and doing some different things, but basically just turning some my focus inward to really work on myself. And life is just completely different now than what it ever was. And I was resigned to thinking that I would just take care of my wife and my kids and work until I died, and didn't really want anything more. Didn't really care if I lived past, meeting those obligations. And I just have a whole different perspective on life. And I think everyone can take the simple steps that I did and find the same kind of peace and joy in life that most people don't know how to find.
Yeah, it's so true. So let me ask you this then. What was kind of the turning point for you when you said like there's got to be more, there's more out there, I need to know what it is? What was that moment for you?
You know, achieving every goal that I thought would make me happy. You know, I think most of us do that. We look out in front of us and go, if you're young, if I get my own place, I'll be happy. If I find a new job, I'll be happy. If I find the right spouse, I'll be happy. Maybe when I have kids, I'll be happy. Well, maybe when the kids grow up, I'll be happy. It's never coming. Happiness is right now in the present moment. If you don't know how to find it right now in the present moment, you're never going to be happy. There's stories of billionaires who sell their company and 2 months later want to commit suicide because they're just miserable. It Peace and joy is truly found in the present moment, and there's so many simple tools that can pull us into that present moment. There's ways that we can show each other how to find that peace. It's not elusive. It does feel like it is because it feels like we don't have control over our thoughts. But I could show people how to do that. It's not as hard as we think it is.
So there's something so powerful in what you just said because a large majority, was going to combine two words. That was such a weird word. A large majority of the population is chasing this happiness. And so people think that when they go on vacation, like that's going to make them happy. People think that you're right. When they find that partner in life, that's going to make them happy. When they have the kid, that's going to make them happy. What people are missing is the one important information is happiness is already inside of us. So we have to
Yes,
dig within. And I just had this conversation with my energy healer, and like so many people are running away from themselves when really you have to sit down, be quiet, and just figure all that stuff out, which is so hard to do. It's easier said than done. And it's
it
so
is.
complex because there's so much that comes up. Like we're so emotional, and our mind is not essentially who we are either. So we really have to learn how to take control of all of those things. So I'm really interested to hear about your process and how you did that.
Yeah, I've got basically a 10-week program that's broke up, like you said, into three different phases. Um, but I learned it all by just going inward with very high intensity to just try to figure out how to quiet my mind by any means necessary. And one of the earliest tools that I used was a crystal. I used to put a crystal in my hand, and you wouldn't think that's the very big deal, but when I put a crystal in my hand, I could feel the vibration in my hand. And when I could feel the vibration in my hand, that's an internal focus and it would quiet my mind. So I started using it at work and a lot of different things. I was a crazy guy that had a different crystal every day. But I used it as a tool because it quieted my mind. And when my mind was quiet, I'd have more focus for whoever I was sitting there with because my brain wasn't going somewhere else. Um, and then it would also just make me feel calmer because I didn't have stress of the future and I didn't have any old anxiety or any depression chasing me from the past. I started, this is amazing. So I started having a little bit of success quieting my mind early on. And then over time, just reading books and diving into Buddhism and meditating and just I realized that that my thoughts, none of them are me. We're not our thoughts. We're the witness of our thoughts. Our thoughts are coming from somewhere else. And then, okay, well, where are they coming from? And then I was able to figure out, the anxiety's coming from the future. And that's relatively easy to get rid of. Most people don't think that, but there's been only a handful of folks that have gone through my program, but the first handful that went through it, two of them were taking anxiety medication for over 3 years, the highest dose that they can take. So a couple times a day they would have to take this medicine. Within a week and a half, they're done with it, and it's been a year and a half, almost 2 years, and they haven't had any need because they understood the simple tools, how to bring your attention into the present moment, and it makes everything in the future just go away. It doesn't exist. To the subconscious mind, time doesn't truly exist. In reality, in my opinion, time doesn't exist. It's something we made up to kind of work through life. What do we got to do tomorrow? What are we going to do next month? We got a plan, and we use time for that matter. But our subconscious mind has no concept of time, which is can be a horrible thing because it still holds on to trauma that happened in the past, like it's still the present moment, like it's still happening now. But once you understand that, it can be a gift because you can go back to that present moment because it's still the present moment, reframe it all with love, compassion, and forgiveness, and make that moment that was haunting you go away. Basically, move it into the love bucket. I'm kind of getting ahead with my program here, but the time just doesn't exist. And once you understand how that works and how the subconscious mind works, it becomes very easy. You still have to have the courage to challenge your old fears, but if you could summon that, we could all make all that noise in our head go away with relative ease.
Yeah, well, I'm a creature of routine. I love the routine, but I know what you're saying because even when it comes to eating, like everyone is following the schedule. We're supposed to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But then got to a point in my life where I'm like, oh, I'm not hungry right now. So then I started just a simple thing of listening to my body. When I feel the need to eat something, then I eat something and I just feel better about it. When I feel like I need to go to sleep, I go to sleep. So it's really about tuning in and becoming really self-aware of the cues and signs that our bodies are giving us and exactly reframing the like all of these expectations. There's so much noise coming in from the outside, so how do you quiet that down? How did you, when you started really digging deep in, how did you really do that successfully? Like you have 6 kids, you've got a wife, like people saw you changing. What was that experience like?
It was weird.
Yeah,
When I did
totally.
it first, I grew this gigantic beard and it was massive. My wife, she didn't like it, so I finally cut it for her. But that the change happened and it was just very apparent in a lot of different ways. Um, but taking control of our thoughts, it's just life altering. It opens us up to other parts of the universe that we don't even know exist. You
Yeah.
know, most everything we do, to your point you made about eating, is we do it on autopilot. We do it subconsciously. I heard a yogi say that we live 95% of our days subconsciously, and I think it's true. How many times do we drive home and we don't think about driving, but we
Yeah.
weren't unsafe?
I know, isn't
Like
that crazy? It's crazy. I'm
it
like, how
is.
did I make it home?
The subconscious mind is just so powerful. We
Yeah.
walk, we talk, we eat, we do everything subconsciously. And the way that we find peace is by taking back control, is by doing things consciously. It's like when you started saying, "Hey, wait a minute, I'm not eating because I'm not hungry right now. My body is not. Just because it's 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock doesn't mean I need to eat lunch. I need to listen to my body." Well, that's being conscious. You were awake when you're making those
Mhm.
decisions. We can learn to just be awake instead of 5% of the day, 10% of the day. That right there is just a traumatic, life altering thing when you can push it to 15% of your day, to 20% of your day by figuring out ways to take control of the moment and be 100% present in every moment. That's when life starts to change, because when you're doing that, everything inside just quiets. It gets quiet, and the things, um, the energy that is you starts to come alive, and it becomes a whole lot more powerful. I've had meditations, and I, I played with my energies in my hands for a while, and then I realized that I could, in meditations, that I could open up all my different chakras. And I just thought that was like the most amazing thing in the world. I didn't even know what a chakra was. And now all of a sudden I'm opening these things up in a meditation. I play with them so much now, I can open them all up on demand. My heart chakra pretty much stays open all the time. It's just an amazing way to live life, and it words don't even do it justice. I can't hardly explain where I was 10 years ago and where I am now. Like, I had no idea that we could live a life this way. Um, it's pretty amazing, and I feel like it's all very logical steps that we can all take. At least the folks that have grown up in the United States and in this hustle and bustle of the world, I feel like I have a little bit of a ability to relate to how we all been, just the media and everything has hit us. I don't know a whole lot about Canada. I'm assuming it's not too far off, but we just get consumed. We're
Yeah.
being Advertising is hitting us all day long. I was going down the road one day, and I was fasting, and I'd been fasting for, I don't know, about a month, and I started realizing that every food sign is telling us to eat. Like, every other sign is telling us to eat breakfast. It's telling us to eat lunch. It's telling us to eat dinner, and I wasn't hungry. And when I stopped eating, and I just do intermittent fasting, so I just eat one meal a day, but it's like everything is advertising to tell me to eat. But when I stop eating, I have so much more energy. And it's amazing. And as soon as I start to eat, all that energy goes away again. And wait a minute, who's telling us not to eat?
Right.
that,
Right. Yeah. When
yeah,
we start, when we start staying ahead of that and we really, really tune in and listen to what our body's telling us, it is truly so powerful. And I can see you getting excited about it. And I could feel your energy because it is. It's like,
yeah,
who is telling me to live life this way? Who lives life? It doesn't work for me, right? So it's like,
yeah,
I know I don't feel good if I eat a big meal right now, so I'm not going to do it. I don't care what so and so's doing. I'm going to do me because I know what I need. Everybody is
yeah,
so uniquely themselves. And so these people that you work with that are taking anxiety medication, they're numbing that down because they don't know how to manage it, and how
yeah.
powerful that you can teach them how.
Yeah, it's amazing once you really just start to understand the dynamics of how the subconscious mind works, and it's really created to keep us alive. If you imagine a 2-year-old little kid, little boy walking along the edge of the pool and he falls in, all right? The subconscious mind is designed to hold on to a memory where that kid almost drowned. He got pulled out of the water, and he had water in his lungs, and it scared him really bad. Well, the subconscious mind is designed to put that memory, a fearful memory that is could have caused him death, on a high level, right? The problem is that we're the subconscious mind is protecting our ego, things that we're decorating our ego with. So if somebody's attacking me because I'm a bad dad, or somebody's attacking me because I'm a bad COO or whatever, it's going to treat that the same as it would that 2-year-old kid falling in the pool. It doesn't know the difference between your body being threatened for its life or your ego being attacked. And so it protects them both the same way. And then you get into a lot of superficial things where you got social media, and you got young girls comparing themselves against this, and young guys comparing themselves against athletes or whatever. And everybody just gets lost in this comparison because they're putting attachments onto themselves. And then the subconscious mind doesn't know how to handle that. And so it's all of that trauma right there. It's now you got 50 things. I call it a Christmas tree, and there's literally we start decorating things, putting ornaments on our Christmas tree since we're 2 years old or something. We start putting things on there, and we say we're this and we're going to be that, and I'm going to be like my daddy, or I'm going to be like my mommy, and they start putting things on the tree. Every one of those ornaments on the tree is now being protected as if it's the tree. It's not. We're just a tree. We're not. We're not all those ornaments on the Christmas tree. Um, and it's that's where all this mental noise is coming from. A lot of it, and then a lot of the mental noise will come from when we're 5 years old, 2 years old. I don't know when we got ourselves into an elevated emotional state, and then we were left feeling one of four main topics: feeling ugly, stupid, unlovable, or unworthy. And so that's how the subconscious mind gets programmed. When you get it into an elevated state, it opens it up. And then you get left with how you were feeling. So if you got left feeling stupid, like for me, you were talking about me not being able to basically read and write until I was about 25 years old. So I graduated high school with about a second grade reading level. I could read a word, but I couldn't read a sentence and remember what it
Right.
was because it was so hard for me to read each word. But I went through high school and graduated. And I did it in very weird ways. I would search for keywords and do homework and fail every test and get out of there with D's and C's. Um, but I left high school and grammar school with a lot of elevated emotional states where I felt stupid.
Right.
And it left a boatload of trauma. Well, all I had to do was go back to those moments. Like in kindergarten, my name is Mike. I always go by Mike, but I became Mike because I couldn't spell Michael in kindergarten. And I had a teacher, she got a little frustrated with me because she didn't know how to deal with me. And she said, right, fine, just out of frustration, she said, just try to write Mike. And I did that. Well, that was the first time I realized that I was different than the rest of the kids. And I was left kind of feeling dumb because I knew that everybody else could spell their name.
Mm.
Well, that sat on me until I was about 48 years old. And
Wow. Yeah.
it was in the present moment. But all I had to do to make that go away forever was in my imagination, go back to when I was 5 years old in kindergarten, forgive the teacher for getting excited, forgive any of the other students in there that may or may not have said anything, and forgive myself for not understanding. Reframe that whole situation with compassion, love, and forgiveness. Forgiveness is the big part. And all of a sudden, that thing that happened in the present moment is no longer haunting me anymore because my subconscious mind doesn't need to protect me anymore because that was a loving, compassionate memory and one that doesn't need to protect me. Because the subconscious mind is literally just trying to protect us. And you just put it up on the shelf as a loving memory and it move it out of that fear bucket into the love bucket. And now all of a sudden it won't haunt you. When I was going through my transformation, I started going to an energy healer because I was loving the energy in my body and being able to feel it in my hands and whatever. And I found Chris Hancock, and his title was an energy healer. And I learned how to do this with him. And he does it three different ways. But the basic gist of it is this: after about 20 sessions, I realized I wasn't the same anymore. The noise in my head, the negativity coming in my head, it just had been dulled tremendously. And I was having days where I was just happy for no reason. Just like we have days where we're sad for no reason, I started noticing I was happy for no reason. Like, what is happening here? That's just started to feel a shift in my life. I've probably done about 150, 160 of them now. I was logging them for a long time. I kind of stopped, but somewhere in the middle of all that, I learned how to do it myself. I learned how to do an actual writing program, and I've done it. I started doing it with some folks around the office, and it was amazing. I was just blown away with how well that it worked. And it's the same thing that Chris had taught me, and it's the same thing that Buddhists have been doing for 2,500 years. This isn't a secret. It's just new to the world that I'm living in, that most people live in.
Yeah.
And so understanding how to just take all that old stuff that's haunting us and get rid of it, it's just liberating. Every time you find one and get rid of it, it's just you have this almost euphoric feeling for anywhere from 3 to 5 days, and you just feel amazing. And then, some bad feelings might come up again, but now, whenever I have one of those, I celebrate it. I get so excited. I'm like, yes, yeah, I feel this horrible feeling in my foot, but now it's another clue for me to find another core belief that I can
Yes.
rewrite and heal further. So I get excited about them now. For a while, I was getting almost frustrated because I was like, how many of these do I have? And how many do I got to get rid of? But it's just part of the journey. But if
That's amazing.
It is. It really is, because we're living with these negative thoughts, and that's where they're coming from. Most of them are coming from a combination of the two things of we got ourselves in an elevated emotional state when we were a kid, or we're decorating our ego with things that the subconscious mind is protecting. And we don't have to do either one of those things. You know, the old trauma from our past, it takes time. You know, it's going to take time for somebody to heal from, but it took a long time for us to get in a place of depression. So it's not, you can't get out of it in 10 weeks through my program. But in 2 years, if you stayed on the path, you're on the other side of it. You know, you still might have to deal with some stuff, but you beat to the other side of it. And it's such a beautiful, powerful thing.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. And for the audience, I just want to say like my translation, just to make it a bit easier to understand, is that these traumas or situations that happen, whether it be, something that we get in an argument with a kid, we get told we're not smart enough, or, we fail a test and we hold on to that, our body holds on to those emotions and they stay trapped in our body in different spots. And our body has this ability to hold on to things, which then causes dis-ease. And what you're talking about is freeing all of that energy so that our bodies can thrive. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I translate it. And one of my first experiences, I'm very early in my journey of clearing all of this, but I am working with someone, and I must have laughed for half an hour straight one day. Like I could not stop laughing. And I was like literally trying to, like, I'm laughing, thinking about it. I was trying to stop it from happening because I could not stop laughing. Like I laughed myself till I was exhausted. And it was one of the most invigorating things that has ever happened. But it was like this feeling of lightness, that that part of my body has finally been cleared of that energy that was holding me back from clarity. It was just unbelievable. So I can completely relate to that. Um, Tell us more. Tell us about your program. Tell us about the fear bucket and the love bucket.
Sure, absolutely. So, and I want to say that you absolutely said it perfectly. I could not have said it any better. I am not a wordsmith, and you said it much better than I could have. So, thank you for that. But the fear bucket and the love bucket, I truly believe the opposite of fear is love, right? And I think that the and vice versa, the opposite of love is fear. And we are chemically made that way. When I first realized what I'm about to tell you, I was blown away. When we have negative, fearful thoughts, our brain produces cortisol. When we have positive, loving, compassionate thoughts, our brain produces cortisol or oxytocin. So we are literally in a drug induced state all the time based off of the content of our thoughts. And we have control of that. We get to change our thoughts and shift them. And I know it's hard sometimes for people to shift their thoughts and say, okay, I'm just going to shift them to positive. But if you could do, that's why a gratitude journal is such a powerful thing. It's a big part of my program. When you start out week one, that's basically what you start doing. You do a gratitude journal. If somebody just did a gratitude journal, that could be the most powerful, life-changing things, because you're literally shifting yourself out of the fear bucket, putting yourself into the love bucket manually. You're going into that brain and you're flipping that switch. It takes 2 minutes for your brain to realize, hey, we're having loving, compassionate thoughts here. And then, okay, we're in a safe place. Flip that over. I'm going to stop making cortisol, start making oxytocin. And then another 8 or 10 minutes after continuing to write what you're grateful for. I'm grateful for the air in my lungs. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful I'm healthy. Just whatever random things you could be grateful for. After 10 minutes, you are literally drug induced happy. Like if you're
Yeah.
just having a bad day, write down what you're grateful for, and you'll manually shift yourself out of the fear bucket into the love bucket. And in the first 3 weeks of the program, I basically teach people that to get started. So that's a manual shift, right? You manually start shifting yourself out of that fear bucket into the love bucket. And then in week two, we use meditation. And everybody really needs to understand this and know it, not just believe it, but you need to experience it. But we are not our thoughts. We are the witness of our thoughts. And for some people, this is life altering. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm not all those negative things that I'm telling myself. And in a simple meditation, if you put on a guided meditation and you start listening to it, and you don't have to be good at meditation. It actually works out better if you suck at it, right? Because your brain's going to pull us our attention over here. And the moment you realize, hey, I'm supposed to be paying attention to this meditation, now you have two thoughts sitting there. You have your intent to do the meditation, and you have the random thought. And if you'll hold on to that moment where you realize it and you're looking at both of them, you'll start to get distance between your thoughts, and you'll be able to look at them and go, wait a minute, I'm just the witness of these. I can do whatever I want. I can make this thought go away. I can go back to the meditation. I can let this thought play itself out. Don't give it any energy, and it'll just fade away like a cloud does. And it'll just kind of dissipate and go away. But from that seat, that's such a powerful place because it takes all the power away from these random thoughts that are causing you pain. And you realize, wait a minute, I'm in control of these thoughts. Then in week 3, once you get that from that seat, now all of a sudden we start doing writing exercises where we reframe the negative thoughts that we had in the day and we reframe them with compassion. I always like to use like road rage. Somebody cuts us off in traffic and we get so mad and we get so worked up. Well, I started doing this myself a long time ago where I forgive them immediately. I just come up with a reason. I make up a reason in my mind that their kid is sick, they're on their way home, they're panic stricken, and I just hope that they get home safe and they get their kid to the hospital on time and everything's okay. Immediately, I have no ill will to this person who just cut me off in traffic. I'm just wishing them well and hoping that they make it all right. Back up and let them go. That is not the Mike Wood of 20 years ago, and we can do that with everything. If we wake up and we say we're going to have a bad day, oh, no, 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 today's going to be a beautiful day. Once you know that thought is not you, you could reframe that. I don't even get out of bed anymore unless I've got positive thoughts coming. I just lay there long enough to just become aware of whatever thoughts I'm having, and I just reframe them all with, this day is going to be amazing. I can't believe I get to do this again. This is going to be so cool. I can't wait to see what happens today. And then boom, I'll get out of bed. But we can all do that. And that's kind of the shift that happens in the first 3 weeks. And it becomes very apparent, the negativity in our minds, because we start moving ourselves into oxytocin and we like it. So now when we get the cortisol going, we realize it. We're like, whoa, wait a minute, I don't like this over here. But then we also start to realize all the negativity in our environment, which can be toxic. Because if you're going to sit around a group of people, and everybody's talking negativity around you, well, that's going to affect you, and it's going to put you in cortisol. You're in the fear bucket just by sitting in proximity to all these people. So people have to really be on guard and protect their peace. And it's difficult because if you tell somebody, hey, you're being judgmental and mean, well, you're being judgmental in telling them that. So it's a very difficult thing to navigate. But once people can get through that, that's just a major life-altering thing. So they shed friends that aren't for them. You may even have to talk to your spouse or whoever, your coworkers. You have to reevaluate every situation that you're coming into, because now you're aware of the negativity and the fear bucket and the love bucket, and you're making a choice to live in that love bucket, and you're being pulled by outside forces into that fear bucket, and everybody becomes very hypersensitive to that through that time, and it's challenging.
Well, I know a lot of our audience is sitting in a situation right now where they feel stuck. They feel like they don't have a choice because they have kids, they have family. Maybe they're not aligned with their current life, job, spouse, friends. Do you help people through that? Is that an ideal client for you? And if so, like what advice would you give them in this moment? How do they start? Because I know I've been there. That's a hard place to be. You've been there. Um,
Yes.
that's a hard place to be.
And it is, and everybody has to walk their own path. But what I would say is you have to address it with everyone. And some people, you may just stop answering the phone because you just realize like, hey, they're not going to change. I'm not going to be able to fix this situation here. But if it's somebody close, like your spouse, you have to have a conversation. And it may not be the conversation you want to have. It may be a tough conversation, but I promise you it'll be better but then not having that conversation. I watched it in my own life to where I started controlling my environment, and then people were becoming sensitive about being negative around me. Well, then they started being more positive, and then 6, 8 months later, they were having the same conversations with people in their life who were causing them. So by you holding peace, by you holding your ground and demanding that you love yourself enough that you're going to protect your own peace. And when you start to do that, it spreads to everyone around you. I watched the building here at Jarrett change because I couldn't tolerate negativity around me. And so I would make a bit of a stand in my house with my wife and my kids. It's it starts to just spread from you, and it's kind of amazing. So yes, it can be very challenging, but just hold steady and know that your happiness, your peace that comes from within has to be protected. If you're not protecting that, then you're not any good for anybody else. If when you're on a plane, they tell you to put your oxygen mask on first before you put one on your child.
Mhm.
It's because if you don't put yours on first, you can't take care of anybody else. And the next phase of my program, we basically talk about this. There's 1 week where you basically learn what it means to love you. And it's a really cool week for people, and it's a perspective change. But I basically ask everybody. I say, how who is the person that's the closest to you? Who is your bestie? Who is your person? And imagine that they're going to leave their body for 6 months, and you're going to live their life. How would you live their life? If they wanted to work out, would you work out for them? When they look in the mirror, what would you see? Would you see beautiful, or would you have negative self-talk? If they have dreams that they're wanting to chase, would you do anything to move them any closer? And then you go through that whole thing and go, okay, this is what it truly means to love somebody. Are you willing to do that all for yourself? And it kind of gives a beautiful perspective change on how we're treating ourselves. It's really beautiful. And at the end of it, we write ourselves a love letter, and it's kind of it's kind of corny in a lot of ways, but at the same time, it creates a perspective shift on how much
Mm.
you're actually taking care of yourself.
Wow, that's powerful. I know for me and a lot of our listeners, when I started doing what I needed to do, even communicating it, like saying to my partner, "Hey, listen, I'm gonna go to a yoga class tonight, instead of hanging out with you." Like I feel guilty. So where does that come from, and how do we get rid of the guilt and really just own what we need to be doing to keep ourselves aligned and at peace?
Well, I I think from that perspective of what you're talking about, I think taking things off of your Christmas tree. All right. So you
Mm,
you identify as a good either wife or a girlfriend or whatever. And part of that is being attacked when you're leaving at night and going to take care of yourself. Am I being a good spouse right now? Am I
right.
doing right by them? When you take that off, and you say, you know what, I'm not a spouse, I'm so much more than a spouse, and you get rid of that and you go, I am infinitely more than this. Now all of a sudden you're making a judgment. if I go to this yoga class, I'm going to be mentally stronger. I'm going to be healthy mentally and physically, and I'm going to be a better partner to the person that I'm with. Um, I, when I created this program, I went through this with myself, and I took off politics, which was such an amazing thing. I turned that politics off so fast; it was amazing. I took off being a Titans fan, and so I wasn't miserable after they lost every week. And I still enjoy watching football, but I don't care who wins or loses
Right.
because I don't have any attachment to a team. Um, but when we're making these type of choices to get to better ourselves, we're all outside of maybe 1,000 yogis on the planet who are enlightened beings, from my perspective, we are all not well. We have to focus on ourselves first and become healthy. And I've seen it in my own life. The healthier I get, I'm a better husband. I'm a better dad. But I hate to say it like this, but I took those things off myself, off my Christmas tree. I don't identify with that. So if one of my kids was like, Dad, when I was a kid, you did this and this, oh, that's unfortunate. That's part of your path. Is there anything I could do to help you now? Like it doesn't even touch me. I don't even try to defend it. I don't care. I love you and I want you to be okay. Is there something I can help you with right now to make you feel better? I can help you understand it. I wasn't well then. You know what I mean? I was growing and I'm not the same person I was. And there was a kid in the office here, and about to have a baby, his first baby, and he's in his early 30s. He's going to take it so serious, and he was so worried that he was going to make mistakes. I was like, guess
Mm.
what? You're going to
Yeah.
you're going to screw this up. Everybody has issues with their parents. It's just a normal part of the thing. But if we just love our kid, that's what I told him. I said, just love them. That's all that you're truly going to be judged by, is how
Yeah.
much you truly love them, and let the rest of that stuff go. We can't hold on to everybody's worries and everybody's concern and truly love ourselves and take care of ourselves.
Well said. And yeah, spoiler alert, you're going to make a ton of mistakes, buddy. Like life's hard.
Yes.
Having a child is hard. My gosh. So where can we find you? Where is your coaching program? Where does it live? Where people can have a look at it and read more about it and find out more information and tell us more about it.
Sure. Learntolovebeingyou.com. Okay, that's the website, and that's where you can find it. It's relatively new and it's still a work in progress, but you should have a lot of information on there to be able to find it. And the class is $500. And if you can't afford it, email me directly at mike@learntolovebeingyou.com. I want to make sure that everybody gets access to this program. I'm not trying to make money, but it costs to be able to push this program. So I
Mhm.
am charging because it is valuable. I still go to my energy therapist. I pay like $240 every other week, and I've been paying that for a lot of years. And you could do everything and that I get out of my energy therapist through this program for free once you have it forever. So it's extremely valuable. Um, and I'll say this, like if you want to take my program, you have to be ready to heal, and you have to be ready to put in the work. It's not going to work if you're not ready to put in the work. So for most people, they're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And if that's you, this program will 100% work for you. If you're willing to put in about an hour a day, and 100% success rate after that.
Amazing. So, Mike, leave us with some last thoughts based on what we talked about, or if there's anything that you're called to kind of say before we say goodbye for today.
Um, I guess what I would just love to say is there's such an amazing world inside of us that most people have no idea. So take your focus from the outside world and turn it inward, and you'll find amazing things. So most people have no idea that's where peace and joy is found. That's where the Bible says you're supposed to look. That's where Buddhism says you're supposed to look. Pretty much every religion on the planet says turn and go inward to find peace and joy. And that's what my program is going to teach you how to do. You know, teach you all the steps and tools you need to take your focus and go inward. And that's where you'll find peace. And I hope every one of you find it.
Well, it was so amazing to sit down and have this chat with you today, Mike.
Thank you. I appreciate your time, Lisa.
Yeah, amazing. And to our audience, thanks for tuning in. You just heard from Mike Wood, and I know I'm inspired, and I hope you're inspired too. We will have his links in the show notes for you so you can check out more of his program and learn a little bit more about that. But until next time, my name is Lisa Urbanski with The Advisor. Happy searching, guys. I totally agree with Mike. It is within you. Go find it.